Okay, we're here now in the sleep line, and what we're going to talk about here are schedule changes, how to know when to change your baby's nap structure around, and schedule changes so you can continue to ensure that your baby is well rested even when he grows older. And it can definitely throw your sleep off, throw your baby's sleep off, because it's inevitable, it's natural. As your child grows older, he will definitely have different sleep needs as his schedule shifts, and that's part of the plan. We're going to go through here the different changes that will happen as your baby grows older so you can know how to roll with the punches so your baby's sleep doesn't get too thrown off. So what I want to talk about first is the transition of a baby taking 3 naps to 2 naps. It's the first shift that happens. Your baby in this age bracket may or may not still be taking 3 naps, but let's just talk about when your baby's taking 3 naps and how to smoothly transition to 2. Babies usually need 3 naps during the day, still till they're around the 6 to 8 month bracket. And around 6 to 8 months, some babies will start showing us signs that they're ready to drop that 3rd nap, to transition from 3 naps to consistently 2 naps. The earliest is 6 to 8 months, but the general window is usually 7 to 10. So, first of all, don't rush it. If your baby is 6 months, and you feel like your baby isn't ready, that's fine. But for sure within the 7 to 10 month bracket, you're going to start showing signs for your baby being ready for this transition. Usually around this age, the 3rd nap is usually somewhat of a cat nap. It's not a major long nap here, and its purpose is really just to hold your baby out properly until bedtime while keeping daytime sleep intact. So, signs you know that your baby is ready to give up his 3rd nap. Number 1. Has zero interest in taking the nap. You offer it, you try, but your baby's simply not interested. Well, this is the easiest one to fix because, my goodness, if your baby independently dropped it, then it's not too much work on your part. But if your baby's ready to give it up just because he's not interested, great. He got rid of it on its own, okay? But it's not always that easy. Let's say your baby will take the nap, but you have to fight him to get it. It takes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, even an hour sometimes just to get him down for that nap. That's another sign he's ready to get rid of it. Another sign your baby might be ready to drop this 3rd nap is that he goes down easily but doesn't sleep for a long time. What used to be a good 30, 40 minutes is now 10 minutes, 12 minutes, not really much of a nap at all. Okay, another sign your baby's ready to drop it is he goes down well, he sleeps well, but he's really irritable when he wakes up. Okay, so it's better off if Mr. Cranky Pants never even took the nap because he's a mess when he wakes up. Another sign is that he takes the nap well, he's happy when he wakes up, but he fights bedtime. He takes a good long nap, but he won't go down well for bedtime. It's not common for babies 6 to 7 months to do this so much, but it's really much more common when the baby is taking that 3rd nap closer to the year mark. He's happy, he's sleeping great, but he has no interest in going down well for bedtime. So what to do for all these things is to make sure that your baby is ready to transition out of that 3rd nap. So when your baby is ready and you have shown or seen some of the signs I just outlined, what should you do? How do you get rid of it? So there's no slow acclimation like when your baby grows older and we transition, from 2 naps to 1 nap and different things like that. This one is really clear cut, cold turkey, get rid of that nap. Your baby might be irritable for a few days when you drop it, but if baby is really ready, he will adjust fairly quickly, not getting used to not taking the nap, but also at the smooth transition for bedtime if he's in that 7 to 10 month bracket. So when you see one of the above signs I just mentioned happening, it might be difficult, but like any transition, your baby is developmentally ready to do something, but his body might not be acclimated yet. So it's a little bit of a change, but it's not painful, okay? If it's painfully hard, it might be time to reevaluate because maybe your baby's not ready. But it shouldn't take longer than a few days for your baby to adjust to getting rid of that nap if and when he's ready. Now, keep in mind when you drop this 3rd nap, if you feel your baby's ready, you might have to compensate during this transition process by making bedtime slightly earlier, maybe 20 minutes earlier, maybe 30 minutes earlier. You don't suddenly want to have bedtime an hour earlier, but if your baby's not used to staying awake as long, it might be hard for him to stay awake till bedtime, so you might have to bump it up a little. Okay, so that's transitioning from 3 naps to 2 naps. Let's talk about transitioning from 2 naps to 1 nap. Most babies need to take 2 naps until they are close to 15 months. Transitioning to 1 nap prematurely will usually just cause your baby to be very overtired. So anytime before 15 months, I'm really hesitant to tell you to transition to 1 nap because babies are usually not ready for it. I say usually because obviously some do not fit into the confines of what the norms are, but the typical range is around 15 to 19 months. So some babies are ready at 20 months and some as early as 15. So you want to obviously base it on signs you see. So let's talk about the signs that your baby is ready to go from 2 naps to 1 nap. Number 1, fighting the first nap. Your baby is not tired. He's not interested in taking the first nap. You try and try and try, but he just doesn't want to go down. All right, like he used to sleep around 9, 10 a.m., but he's just not going down for that first nap. Another sign is that he's fighting the second nap. He'll take his first nap beautifully, and he used to nap around 12:1, but now he won't go down till 2, till 3, maybe even 4. He's fighting the second nap. Another sign is he might not fight either nap, but the naps that used to be consistent in length and time have become really short. So let's say his nap used to be an hour, and the second nap used to be 2.5 hours. Now they're each 40 minutes, okay? It's off kilter, and you know something is wrong. So before doing anything, you always want to wait a good few weeks before assuming a nap is done. Don't just have a bad few days and think, oh, my baby's ready to drop it. Never evaluate a situation that your baby's ready to go from 2 naps to 1 until you've seen consistently for a week or 2 that there's serious nap fighting happening, so that way it's really, really clear in your mind that your baby's ready to transition, okay? One more sign that your baby's ready to get rid of one of the naps and transition from 2 to 1 is that your baby fights bedtime. He might have no interest in going to sleep smoothly, either because he didn't take a nap until 3 or 4 p.m. or because he's just not ready to transition to sleep because his internal clock is so off. So these are all the signs that your baby is ready to transition from 2 naps to 1. So how do you do the transition once you see the signs? Find a middle ground for the nap that's somewhere in between both of them. What do I mean? Let's say nap 1 is around 9:30, and nap 2 is around 12:30 or 1. What you want to start doing is offer that one nap at a middle time, so your baby's not suddenly up from morning until a ridiculously late hour because his body won't be ready. Find a happy median. So if your baby normally sleeps around 9:30, start that one nap around 10:15, 10:30, holding him off a little bit. But remember, it's a transition process. It's going to take some time. Your baby might be up for another hour because he's ready, but shouldn't ever be painful. Do this for 3, 4, 5 days. After 3, 4, 5 days, make 10:30, 10:45. Then a few more days, bump it to 11. If your baby's waking up at 7, I would like to see that nap happening around 11, 11:30. I like a one napper happening about 4 to 4.5 hours after your child has started his day, okay? I do like to see that it's happening around that time because that's what's going to help him. Having a one nap around 2 hours or 2.5 hours after he woke up is not going to cut it, okay? Over tier years, the nap can be a little bit later in the day, but around the transitional time, I don't want him to be awake too long. Okay, now length of the nap, I would like to see it around the 2 to 2.5 hour mark. So it's not going to happen immediately. As you're transitioning, it's going to take some time. So start slow, like I said. Start at 10:15, bump it to 10:30. Every 3, 4 days, bump it to 11. And as your baby's body catches up and he's able to stay awake solidly for that 4 to 4.5 hour mark after waking up, the nap itself will start lengthening and being a really good length of that good 2, 2.5 hours. Let's talk about the next transition, one nap to no nap. Most children nap until they're close to 2.5 years old. Some kids do nap till 3.5 or 4, but it's rare. The general age bracket is 2.5 to 3. So here are some signs that your baby is ready to give up his one precious nap that you love, because that's when you have time to yourself, okay? Number 1, not wanting to take his nap. Oh, okay, well that's easy. You can't get him down for his nap. He doesn't take it, independently drops it. Number 2, fighting bedtime. This is the most common sign I see when a child is ready to get rid of his nap is he doesn't want to go to bed. Instead of going to bed at 7 or 7:30, he's up till 10, 11, 12, midnight fighting bedtime. A number 3 sign is early rising, and I'm talking early, not in the 6s, but in the 5s or the 4s. That's a sign that the daytime sleep actually needs to be redistributed. So if your baby's waking up really early, you might need to actually drop that nap to help things reconcile itself, okay? Another sign is that your baby who used to sleep through the night is now waking up in the night. There's not a sleep dependency issue here. He might not be asking for bottles or anything, but he's clearly uncomfortable. His sleep is disrupted. So these are all signs that your baby is ready to drop his nap, okay? Giving up this nap, again, just like the third nap, taking it away, there's no transition. You can't slowly make the nap later or slowly make it shorter in duration. You typically have to get rid of it in one shot. It's hard though, because your child's used to taking this nap. For his entire life, he has slept during the day, and suddenly he's expected to stay awake 11, 12 hours. I'm an adult and I get tired in the afternoons, okay? So it's definitely hard for these little people with these little bodies. So you have to be mindful of that. So only get rid of your child's nap once you're sure your child is ready and you're seeing these signs for a while. But get ready, because if you do this, you don't want your child to simply fall asleep around 3, 4 p.m. playing, okay? You have to keep him awake. You have to distract him. It's hard work on your part, because when the later afternoon comes, you're going to see your child fading and wanting to fall asleep while he's coloring, while he's doing things. So you have to really be committed and ready to doing this. But if your child's ready, it won't be a major battle, because like any other transition, the time frame of new habits is hard, but your baby will adjust accordingly, okay? Like I said, it should take about, honestly, it can take up to 2 weeks for your child's body and his internal rhythms to adjust to not napping. But if he's ready, he should be able to make it for these 2-3 weeks. And even if the process is a little painful during those 2 weeks or so, he will start adjusting because most children are really ready around that 2.5 mark. But it's not always the smoothest adjustment period, even if you're clear that your baby is ready. So keep pushing away. You have to keep him awake in the afternoon, but he will adjust. Now remember, if it doesn't bother you that he has a late bedtime or early rising or any of the signs I said, obviously don't fix it. But if it's bothering you and you feel that he's at this place where he's ready to drop his nap, go for it, okay? That's just an outline of naps. Every situation varies, but you want to ensure that you stay within the sleep line so when these changes occur, you don't get thrown off too much, okay? So that's naps. I want to talk next about saying goodbye to either the holdout feed, if you just listen to the newborn course of when you're doing the holdout feed and actively waking your baby up, or if you are still feeding your baby once in the middle of the night. Not necessarily waking them up, but feeding them still in the middle of the night. How should you do this, okay? First, I'm going to talk about the holdout feed. If you have the newborn and you're in the newborn course and you're still actively doing the holdout feed, okay? The holdout feed was necessary because you wanted to make sure that your baby could get that 8-9 hour chunk of sleep in the night when you could. So first and foremost, only think of getting ready this holdout feed when your baby is lasting beautifully from the holdout feed until morning, around 7-8 a.m., okay? Make sure that that 8-hour chunk or so is consistent for a good solid few weeks, and don't even go there otherwise, because doing something prematurely could potentially backfire and cause worse problems, okay? So the optimal age to get rid of this holdout feed is within 8 months to a year. And I really don't recommend getting rid of that one feeding in the middle of the night until your baby is consistently eating well and consistently having solids. Most babies are not developmentally ready to go that 12-hour straight chunk until he's having consistent solid meals daily. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, having snacks in between. So we're completely confident that he's getting enough calories during the day and we're sure he can last that long. Don't do it while traveling. Don't do it while your child's sick. Make sure you're in a good prime situation to set yourself up for success. You don't want to feel rushed. You don't want to feel like, you're in this non-optimal place, because otherwise you're just going to complicate things unnecessarily with trying to transition out of this feeding. Okay, now there's 2 ways to get rid of this holdout feed, okay? Number 1 is to lessen the amount. Okay, if you're having bottles, you want to physically lessen the amount of the bottle gradually, while at the same time spacing out the holdout feed so you can confidently know your baby can last that long. I don't like to rush things ever. I always want to make sure that you don't make any drastic shifts here. So let's say your baby's 9 months old and has this holdout feed at 11 p.m. He has 5 ounces every night. Sometimes it's formula, sometimes it's pump milk, but he consistently has 5 ounces. So bump the holdout feed to be slightly earlier for 4 or 5 nights. Move it to 11 p.m., from 11 p.m., till 10:30 p.m. Your baby's doing great. Keep it at 10:30, so bump it down from 5 ounces to 4.5 ounces. Do that for a few nights. Still doing great. Lessen the bottle a little bit more. Go from 4.5 ounces at 10:30 to 4 ounces at 10 p.m. Then do that for another few nights, okay? Then go from 10 p.m. to bump it even earlier to 9:30 to 3 ounces to slowly lessen it and not do any cold turkey drastic things so that way your baby can respond well. You can still control it, not suddenly. So you're going to lessen the amount here and bump up the time. You'll know your baby's ready once you get it down to 4 ounces around 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m., and your baby will sleep through the night beautifully. But if you're still feeding your baby one time around 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m., still around 3-4 ounces, and your baby starts waking up in the 2s and 3s, starving, screaming, unless he's fed, you'll know that your baby is not quite ready to get rid of this. Now, the holdout feed was for newborns when we actively wake them up, but this also applies for people within the 6 to 12 month bracket who are still feeding their babies around 11. Okay? If your baby's waking up earlier in the 9s, 10s, then you feed them then, and you kind of go backwards to help their body last longer. But if your baby's not waking up till 2, 3 a.m. for a little bottle, my goodness. It's safe to say he can go the whole night, especially if he's having a little bit less. So lessen the amount. If you're not going to go earlier with the time, just lessen the actual bottle amount, okay? Now, if you see your baby does start waking up in the night, it's a good indicator he's not ready, but don't worry, okay? You can always revisit it in another few weeks, in another few months. It's not all or nothing here. You can just give a little bit less. But if your baby sleeps well from 11 to 7 on 5 ounces, don't feel rushed to suddenly bump it unless you feel like you're ready and your baby's ready. Okay, that's with a bottle. With nursing, you obviously can't determine the exact amount like you can with bottles. So you have to go more with timing or sides. If your baby eats both sides at a feeding, just give one side. If your baby nurses for 10 minutes, try to nurse him for 7 minutes, try to do whatever you can to still lessen the amount. But if your baby can go the whole night, it's a lot easier to ascertain that by either bumping the feedings earlier, if you're actively waking your baby up and doing the hold out feed. But if your baby's just having a quick little snack around 2, 3 a.m. for a minute, you'll know that it's more out of habit than out of actual really hunger. So you're not usually ready to close till a year to have consistent 11, 12 hours in the night till solids are really set up. But that's when you can really think about getting rid of it. Now let's talk about the scoop on solids in general, okay? As you're now aware, your baby's dietary intake really plays a crucial role in his well-being, both physically, emotionally. A well-fed baby with the proper nutrition will thrive and grow, right? Like sleep, your baby's eating habits and needs will change as he gets older. So let's talk about when to introduce solids or how to introduce solids if you haven't yet. And this is more for the younger babies in the different brackets here, but let's go through it anyway. Just food for thought. If you have an older baby and you're watching this, watch it anyway so you know for your next baby, okay? When babies are still following a strictly liquid diet, the only thing that changes is the amount of times in between, right? So your baby home from the hospital weighing 7, 8 pounds, assuming he can last easily, goes about 3 hours. But as he gets older, he'll be able to wait 4 hours and then a little bit longer, then a little bit longer. So around, 6 months, most doctors recommend is the time that you can start really introducing solids to help your baby. And the signs that your baby is ready for solids are a few things. Number one, he's been lasting happily for 4 hours between feedings. He's fine. Or maybe he's really irritable after you nurse him or give him a bottle. He's still hungry. Or he used to sleep well during naps or nighttime, but now has started waking up earlier. He's chewing on his hands excessively. He's watching you and seems genuinely interested. These are all signs that your baby is ready. If he doesn't show these signs, don't worry. But when you begin to introduce it, you start off slowly, just as a taster. Pick one meal for the first few weeks and gradually offer it after a liquid feed. I don't like to offer solids when a baby is hungry because he does not associate satiating hunger with a spoon. He associates it with you nursing or with a bottle, whatever it is. So I like to start offering it, but just a taster after a meal. And as your baby gets better at it, you can gradually begin to actually replace the nursing or the bottle with the solids, okay? So you want to do it slowly. Obviously, speak to your pediatrician. Make sure your baby's at an ideal age, your baby's ready for it. But this was just an overview of the different ideas within the sleep line that can happen. Schedule changes, dropping naps, getting older, staying awake longer, getting rid of nighttime feedings, whether it's an active holdout feed you have with the newborn or an older baby who's still eating once, lasting longer, and getting the scoop on solids. We're going to go through other ideas in the sleep line in a few more minutes, but this is a critical one just to make sure you can stay with your baby's sleep needs as he grows older.